Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Reimer, Medical Lead for the Vaccine Implementation Task Force. And as I'm sure you've noticed, we are in a different location today. So today is our Vaxathon. We're in one of the vaccination clinics, the one at the RBC Convention Center super site in Winnipeg. Today, all of our super sites are offering walk-in appointments. We have 20,000 doses available today for both first or second doses. And this includes both Moderna and Pfizer. And to increase uptake and to meet demand, we're offering Pfizer to adults as well as youth today. This change has just been made, but Pfizer can be accessed at all sites across the province. So many Manitobans have made the decision to get their shot, and I want to thank each and every one of you. For some of you, it was an easy decision to make, but for some of you, you had questions, and that's okay too. Last week, I talked about how the vaccines have been approved and the rigorous process that was used to make sure that they are safe. The science behind these vaccines is solid. They are safe, effective, and built on technology that we know and understand. But some people are still concerned about the vaccine itself. For example, we've seen comments on social media from people in the gym and fitness industry who are concerned about what the vaccine might do to their body. And I think many people might be surprised to know that we actually have more data on the vaccine and what it does to our body than we do for supplements or natural remedies. Vaccines are among the most strictly regulated medical products that we have. So we have more data, more studies, more safety information on the effect of vaccines than we do on any dietary supplement, even on the effects of something like protein powder. All of the ingredients are known in a vaccine, and tests are done regularly to ensure that they are safe and effective. And Canada has an advanced system in place to monitor vaccine safety as well. There are protocols in place for physicians and other healthcare providers to report any adverse event that takes place after an immunization. The system then shares that information widely with health providers to make them aware of adverse events following immunization. So if you are still considering getting the vaccine, I encourage you to find credible sources of information or reach out to your healthcare provider for information. We've also heard that some people may be choosing not to get immunized because they've already had a COVID infection. However, we still recommend that you get the vaccine. When someone has had COVID and recovered, we don't know how strong your immunity is. We don't know, for example, if a natural immunity will protect from the variants that may be circulating. And we don't know exactly how long immunity lasts after a natural infection as well. Data from the vaccines, however, is much stronger and shows that 2 doses provides excellent protection from severe illness from all variants of concern, including the Delta variant. So if you've had COVID, it's possible that you are protected, but we truly don't know to what extent, and we do recommend that you still get immunized because of the extensive information we have about the protection that the vaccine offers. I want to take a minute today also to address the comments by the World Health Organization earlier this week on vaccine interchangeability. So first, the spokesperson from the WHO has clarified that she was referring to individuals and that individuals should not make independent decisions about mixing and matching vaccines, but that public health entities could. But I also want to note that vaccine interchangeability is not a new concept. Similar vaccines from different manufacturers are used when vaccine supply or public health programs change. And different vaccine products have been used to complete vaccine series for illnesses such as influenza, hepatitis A, and others. The decision by the National Advisory Committee on Immunization to allow vaccine interchangeability for the COVID-19 vaccine was based on a number of studies from the United Kingdom, from Spain, and from Germany. These studies showed great safety profiles, and they showed great immune response. While they noted that there is a possibility in the UK study of short-term increases in side effects when mixing COVID-19 vaccines, things like headache, fatigue, or feeling ill, these side effects were temporary and mild and resolved without complications. The other studies did not find a similar increase in side effects when mixing vaccines. They also looked at the benefit of people getting 2 doses of the vaccine. Making sure that you get both doses is key to getting better and longer lasting protection against COVID-19 and severe outcomes. More results from ongoing studies on mixing COVID-19 vaccines are expected in the coming months, including a Canada-wide research study that is getting started where Manitoba is one of the locations. NACI continues to closely monitor evolving evidence on mixing COVID-19 vaccines and will update recommendations as needed. And we will continue to work with NACI on the guidance on immunization and health in Canada. So if you are interested in getting your first or your second dose today, please visit any of our super sites. The hours are different at each site, but they are available at protectmb.ca, so I encourage you to check it out today. Most of the sites are open until 6 p.m., though some are open to 8 p.m., so that gives you lots of time still today if you want to make your way to a super site. I will now turn things over to Johannu.
Thank you so much, Dr. Reimer. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Johannu Bitchute, the Operations Planning and Logistics Lead for the Vaccine Implementation Task Force. It's really exciting to be here at RBC, right in the thick of the action, midway through our Vaxathon day. This week, more than 1.6 million doses have been given. That means we've provided nearly 100,000 doses over the last week. Today, we earmarked 20,000 doses of vaccine to be provided at our super sites across our province. Moderna and Pfizer is available at every super site. So this means RBC, of course, and Lila in Winnipeg, Brandon, Selkirk, Dauphin and Steinbach, Thompson, Gimli, The Pas, and of course, Morden. And to encourage people to get immunized, as Dr. Reimer said, we're now offering Pfizer to both youth and adults today. And it's not too late to take part either. Our sites will be open for several hours yet. As Dr. Reimer mentioned, many until 6 p.m., a couple until 8 p.m. So there's still time to come down and to get your first or your second dose. You can find the hours of each super site on our website, protectmb.ca, and using our interactive map. Bring a friend, a neighbor, a member of the family, anyone you'd like, and come on down. Every day, thousands of people are getting their shot. We're doing our part to make it easier with walk-in appointments, like today at super sites, extended hours, and community partnerships that make being immunized even more convenient. If you want to dose, we have one for you. We are so close to reaching our next vaccine milestone, but we can't do it without you. We have our vaccine distribution systems in place and ready to go. This includes, of course, everything I've mentioned, and they're waiting for you. I'd like to take a moment or two, briefly, to share some of the success stories of our community programs. In Thompson earlier, immunization rates were lower at Wapanak School than in some other areas of the community. Immunizers and navigators worked with local public health nurses to connect with students and families at their homes. Through targeted outreach, 33 students and 19 other family members received the vaccine. In the PA, the Family Resource Center offered their space to a public health team to provide immunizations and COVID-19 testing at a one-day outreach clinic. They provided 24 vaccinations that day, most of which were first doses. And in the next few weeks, pop-up clinics are going to be available at a number of campgrounds in different provincial parks. We're very excited about this initiative, especially as we're aiming for one great summer. Teams will be set up near the concession stands or at a beach to answer questions, provide consent forms, of course, and to give the immunizations. This includes, for starters, clinics offering both Moderna and Pfizer at pop-ups at Child's Lake in Duck Mountain Provincial Park and at Mississippi Provincial Park starting as soon as this Friday. Teams will also be at Spruce Woods Provincial Park on Saturday morning, with more pop-ups planned for the week of July 25th. These are the kinds of outreach efforts, meeting people where they're at, that make it easier for people to be immunized. The only way we can get needles into arms is when the arms arrive for immunization. And at this stage of the game, we can only go as fast as Manitobans are willing to be vaccinated. And every dose counts. So check out the map and make it to one of our super sites today. We hope to see you. And with that, we'll pass it over to questions.
I guess I'm the first one to break the ice. Julian Selkio from Radio said that you will give Pfizer doses to adults and younger people. Why did you decide to change your doses reserved for younger people and then now give them to adults?
I can take that piece. So we've been monitoring all morning, and our goal is to really get as close as we can to that 20,000 doses that we've been allocated. And while there's been many families families with their youth, or youth themselves lining up, we figured there will be enough left by the end of the day for adults as well. So with that goal of 20,000, we reached the point sort of late morning where we could open it up, so that's what we did.
We saw some lineups this morning, and right now it seems like the RBC Center is not as crowded as it is usually. Do you really think this strategy is as effective as the appointment strategy?
Well, we hope so. We certainly hope so. We're in the biggest super site. Of course, this is the largest one, not just in our province, it's one of the largest ones in the country. So I think even when we had thousands of people moving through here, it could look, fairly empty given how big the space is. But we're hoping that this would be successful. It's convenient. Our walk-in option has been popular in the past. So it's exciting to see what might happen for the rest of the day.
Hi, Anya from Global News. Just wondering if you can tell us so far how it's been going. I don't know if you have any numbers up until now, if you've noticed anybody coming in from different regions in particular, anything like that.
So at a high level, it's going to vary a bit across the province, and different sites of different sizes may feel busy or may have to hand out tickets more often. So what we're seeing this morning was a fair number of lineups. At most sites, that lineup dissipated pretty quickly at the larger sites like Lila and RBC. Some of the smaller ones like Steinbeck had to hand out a number of tickets, over 100 tickets for individuals to come back. So I think it varies. Some of the sites are focused on the afternoon and the late evening. So Morden is about to open, so we'll have to see what happens there. I think what we've seen is a promising start, but it's early in the day, and it's certainly not at a point where we want to tap ourselves on the back. We're hoping for Manitobans to show up.
And do you have any information on the backlog in the vaccine cards at all? I know some people are still waiting about 2.5 weeks for theirs. Is there any update on if this might slow that down even more?
No, I don't think this should impact the vaccine cards. As I understand, and this is probably a question sort of for government, our focus on the task force is getting the data in correctly, and then we sort of we leave it from there. But my understanding on the vax cards is that it was mostly a supplier issue in terms of the great popularity of plastic cards across the planet at the moment. And once the supplier figures that out, I think everything will be back up and running fairly quickly.
Thank you.
Hi there, it's Peggy from CBC Manitoba here. So we know that there are parts of Manitoba, such as Winkler, you mentioned, Morden, that there's still very low vaccine uptake. Can you give us an update on kind of what the efforts have been on that front and the progress that's been made in those areas?
Yes, Southern Health Santé Sud has done a lot of work with the different communities, not just with COVID, but before COVID as well, to help improve education and connection with different groups. The pharmacists and physicians as well have met with different organizations. I know they've done some clinics in workplaces in Winkler, for example. And then we're also trying to expand hours and community partnerships as much as possible in that region. We can try to get a more fulsome summary from Southern Health, but they are working really hard every day to connect with the community and help them feel confident in this vaccine.
And on the topic of vaccination cards, we've been hearing from folks who say that they're not eligible for a vaccination card. International students, folks from the military, and also getting their immunization record has also been really tough. They're waiting for weeks. What sort of efforts have been made to address these folks who are also double vaccinated and excited to, have their privileges? What's being done on that front?
So at a high level, my understanding is that the Vax card at the moment is attached to a Manitoba health number. And so there's work underway, as I understand, to find a similar unique identifier for individuals who are essentially residents of Manitoba or are here for a while, but don't have a Manitoba health card yet. But again, I think, as I said, we want to ensure that the data is entered correctly on our end, and then who gets the Vax card and the benefits that come with the card is something that I would defer to government on.
Hi, it's Michelle from CTV. With Pfizer being available for 12 to 17-year-olds, I'm wondering for an update on when we are expecting to hear of an approval for younger age groups. I've heard October being thrown around.
Yeah, so we've talked to Pfizer, and they are currently doing a study for children younger than 12. Their study goes down to 6 months of age, although it sounds like they'll be breaking it up into a few different age groups. And so they're expecting to have their first results for ages 5 to 11 possibly in September, and then they'll have to apply to Health Canada at that point, and it'll be in Health Canada's hands how long it takes them to review the application. If they return to their normal set of processes, it might take longer versus if they stay with their current method of reviewing in an expedited fashion. So October is our best estimate right now, but there's a lot of unknowns still in that.
Also, how much do we know about protection that a double dose gives you against the new emerging variants, Delta, for example?
So we have studies from several different countries, and all of them have shown that it's quite effective. There's been one study of Israel that showed lower effectiveness against the Delta variant than was ideal, but the studies from the UK, the US, Canada have all shown that protection is still in the high 80s as far as symptomatic infection, and above 90 when it comes to severe outcomes like hospitalization. So really, this is excellent protection in real-world settings. We're seeing in multiple countries, and so we feel confident that the 2 doses so far remains protective against all of the existing variants of concern, including Delta.
James from the Winnipeg Sun. How does Manitoba's vaccination effort compare to other jurisdictions, Alberta in particular, which is wide open right now?
So the public health sort of restrictions piece is, I think, a Dr. Rousseau question, or if my medical colleague would like to weigh in. But in terms of how the rollout is comparing, I don't have Alberta's latest stats in front of me at the moment. I know that on average, our per capita doses administered every day tends to still be sort of at the top of the provinces, and we're certainly remain one of the most, often the most vaxxed province in the country. So we hope for that to continue. What impact that has on our reopening plan and public health restrictions is beyond my role on the operations side. So Dr. Ram, I don't know if you have anything.
You know what, I'm going to leave because Dr. Rousseau has a press conference later today, so I'll let him comment on that later today.
Speak a little bit more about the safety of mixing vaccines. Are there any potential downfalls of doing this at all?
So the study, the COM-COV study out of the UK found that there was higher what they call reactogenicity or side effects when people mixed vaccines compared to getting the same brand for both doses. But the studies out of Spain and Germany did not find an increase in those side effects. So it's very challenging for us to conclude one way or the other about the side effects because they had different results in these studies, and they're all relatively small. So what we would say at this point is there's no clear data showing that there's any increased risk associated, even in the short term, with mixing vaccines, and that even if there is, those side effects were mild and they resolved completely. And what we're seeing as far as the immune response, which speaks to long-term protection, is that mixing doses provided excellent protection, particularly compared to AstraZeneca, but excellent protection even compared to, say, 2 doses of the same mRNA.
Hi, good afternoon. It's Danielle from the Free Press. Nice to see you both in person. My first question is for Dr. Reimer, and I'm wondering if the public health team has recommended to government that mandatory vaccinations be implemented in any specific sectors or industries or for participation in activities, and what those recommendations might be.
So we're discussing a lot of things like that right now, but no decisions have been made and no final recommendations from public health have been made. But there are discussions around the merits and the downfalls of making vaccines mandatory in things like personal care homes or corrections or acute care facilities. But yeah, as of today, there's no finalized recommendations from public health, but that is being discussed to come up with a recommendation.
And my second question today is for Johannu. So we've seen second doses drop off a bit as well. Past 7 days, it was about 9,500. So what could that be attributed to? Do we think it's perhaps hesitancy or concern about side effects after the second dose? Or is it concerns about mixing and matching? Do we have any idea why that second dose rate might be falling as well?
In terms of if there's any clinical reasons why that might be occurring, slightly defer to Dr. Reimer. But I think what I should some context from what we're seeing in terms of the booking behavior and what we're seeing for individuals accessing other channels for their second dose. I would be careful to contextualize this second dose as anything more than a slight slowdown. I think we spoke yesterday, so we have 85,000 doses remaining that we have to cover, and then we hit that 75% milestone of ours. That's not a huge amount, and the one thing that's different about now versus when we started off the second doses is people have to wait the 28-day interval. When we began our second doses, there were many individuals, because the supply had been so low earlier on in the campaign, where they were sort of chomping at the bit, and there were many of them ready to go, and they were way past their 28-day interval, so they were eligible. For a while now, we have individuals who have to wait for that 28-day. So it's tentatively optimistic if we account for those individuals and the fact that bit of summer vibes may have kicked in. I think we're feeling very confident that we'll get that 85,000 into the system. We're not worried about that yet. But Dr. Reimer, I don't know if there's any other clinical reasons that you're noticing on B2 that I'm not.
I think at this point we've reached most of the people who are really eager and looking forward to getting a dose and signed up as quickly as possible. And now it's the more difficult work of reaching people who face barriers, of reaching people who have questions, or even just those who haven't prioritized it and have other things on their to-do list. And so, with this little bit of a slowdown that we're seeing, we just need to increase our efforts to reducing barriers and answering people's questions and just making it as easy, as convenient as possible, no matter where people are, and meeting them where they're at.